All right, guys, so today and tomorrow we are going to be using a tool that mathematicians often use, and it's called a protractor. Some of you may own a protractor. You've probably seen one before in a classroom, but we're going to take what we know about angles and apply it now to solving for the measure using this tool. We have learned now that angles really are measured in a reference to a circle. And we know that the circle has a total of 360 degrees. Now, if you start here on 0 and you look, you can see that the scale begins here and then travels along through 90 and then through that 180 point and then down here to 270 and finally back up to 360 degrees. So degrees are the term that we're going to be using. We've been using that as we've talked about angles, but they're used to measure the angles. If you had an angle that turned through 1/360th of a circle, it is just 1 degree. Now that would be very difficult to draw, but you can see right here, just past that 0 mark would be 1 degree. So this angle would just be 1/360th because it would pass through 0 and then just 1 degree. So there are 360 of those little marks in this circle. So again, we've said that the tool that we're going to use is called a protractor. And in 4th grade, guys, you're not going to use the full circle to measure angles. Most of the angles that you're going to measure will be under 180 degrees. So we're using this half circle protractor. So this is what the tool looks like. You're going to see a couple different worksheets and videos where they show this tool. And what you need to know is that a couple things that are going to be pointed out on this study jam video, either you've already watched it or you're getting ready to watch it. But you see here that you have 2 scales, right? They start at 0 and they go up 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, all the way up to 90. But then you also see a scale right here that starts at 180. 180, 170, 160, 150. So hopefully you can see those 2 different scales I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and highlight them here. So we go up like starting at 0 here, and then all the way up, if you continued that scale, it would end at 180. And then on the inside scale, we can see this one starts at 180, and then it should go all the way down to 0. When you see angles measured on a protractor, one of the rays is going to pass through along the bottom of this protractor. So now we're going to jump in and take a look at an example. This one is actually from your textbook. So right now, if you want to follow along, I'm on page 561 in your textbook, and we're just going to look at 2 examples in the book. So this is lesson 15-4, and let's read here. A protractor can help you measure and draw angles. The angle measures are positioned around the curved edge in a double number line. Which number line should be read to make sense in this problem? So just like we said in the previous example, you have those 2 scales, one that starts at 0 over here, whoop, and goes all the way to 180, and then one that starts at 0 here and then travels all the way to 180. But let's look at this angle. Right away, when you look at this angle ABC, what do you think in your brain? What do you know about this angle? Right, it's an acute angle. An acute angle is going to be less than 90 degrees. So now, how do mathematicians use this protractor? Well, what we want to do is find the ray that goes right along the 0 line. It's not over on this side. It's on this side, right here. So now I'm going to find the scale that begins with 0 over here, and I'm going to use that to begin measuring. Well, I see here 10 or 170. So I know that this line is 0, and I'm going to follow this inside scale all the way up until I meet the second ray of my angle. Well, I've started it here, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. This is passing right through the number 50. So the measurement of angle ABC, angle ABC is equal to 50 degrees. If you use the other scale, you would be looking at this outside scale right here, and you would look at this number and you would say, oh, 130 degrees. But now wait a second. Does angle ABC look like it would measure 130 degrees? No. So what you guys have to do, first find the ray, then find the scale that starts at 0, follow it up to the second ray, and look at the number. In this case, it's 50. But then I want you to step back and think to yourself, look at the angle as a whole and say, does 50 make sense? Yes, it does. So that is the angle measure. Let's try another example. I'm going to turn the page, and we are right down here at the bottom. So again, in this example, just like the previous one, the ray passes through on this side of my protractor. So I'm going to follow it along, and then I look for the scale that begins with 0, and I'm going to follow and travel that up. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and stop at the next ray. And I can see the number that I've stopped on is 60. The book is asking us, if I zoom out real quick, there's a question here. How do you know the measure of angle UTS is 60 degrees and not 120? If you have someone next to you, I want you to turn and talk, or just think to yourself. Right, we know that it's 60 because when we look at this angle, we can see the angle UTS is an acute angle. So a measurement of 120 would not make sense. Today, you are going to complete a worksheet, and it looks very similar to this one. If you are able to print it, that will be great. If not, the angles are highlighted in blue on the screen for you. So if you have a separate sheet of paper, then you can look at that. Mine is slightly different from the one that you are doing. So I'm going to go through and just do one more example with you guys. So I'm going to darken this angle for you so that it's easier to read on my screen. Now, in this example, my angle is following along this side. So I am going to travel along this ray that's measuring right along this bottom line that lies flat, and I'm going to look for the scale that begins with 0, and then I'm going to follow it up. So it's 0, 10, 20, and then I pass through right here. Now, this one's kind of tricky. You can see that it's not passing right along the 30, right? 30 would be like right here, and it's slightly past. So now we really have to turn on our brains and think, okay, this is 30 and this is 40. So my angle measure is going to be between 30 and 40. So where exactly does it pass through? Well, okay, thank you. If I look right here, I can see that the line right in the middle, that would measure 35, but it's not quite at 35 yet. It's between 30 and 35. I'm going to say it looks kind of like 32 degrees. So my angle measure is 32 degrees. And then again, I just want to take a step back and look. I know that this is an acute angle. It's less than 90. So does 32 degrees make sense? It does. This angle measure is 32 degrees. All right, we will plan to meet at 2 o'clock to go over these questions to review how we use a protractor to measure angles. Let me know if you have any questions.